The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Right. Yes. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Wednesday, Hemp Day, October 8th. Look at the 8th of hemp. Look at that, you guys. Today is American Touch Tag Day. I know, Dale. I saw the eyebrow. I felt the same way. I was like, is that like for like flag football or something, or like what's?
Yeah, I hope so. It isn't like something Sean did a freak off or something like that, right?
Easy there. Whoa, no bottles of lotion were used in this holiday, Dale. Let's see. Let's see.
CBD. We're gonna have to promote them. So
yes,
here we go.
American Touch Tag Day. Tag, you're it. Remember the sound of sneakers pounding on pavement, the breathless laughter, and the triumphant shout of Tag, you're it. On October 8th, American Touch Tag Day celebrates that timeless childhood game, encouraging kids and young at heart to get outside and play. Oh, let's look at that. That's pretty good. Not bad. I don't think it should be touch. It should just be Tag Day. But, you know.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's now also National Fluffernutter Day. Can you believe Fluffernutter has its own day, Dale? It's crazy, right?
Yeah, well, I can believe almost anything in these days and times.
Yeah.
What the hell does Fluffernutter? I mean, I've got an active imagination. It gets me in trouble all the time. But
yeah.
Fluffernutter?
Yeah, Fluffernutter. It's like what's that, Sean?
I think it's just peanut butter and marshmallow sandwich, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what it is. Mm-hmm. Peanut butter and marshmallows, Dale. You know what I mean? Spread it on thick, you know what I mean?
I was in the Navy, and a drunk sailor has all sorts of imagination about this, so I'll leave it there.
Fair enough, Dale. Let's see, what else is it today? What else is going on today? We also have, it's also National Pierogi Day.
Where do you come Pierogi?
Pierogi.
Where do you come up with these words?
It's a sandwich. They're a sandwich, Dale.
What's going on?
Yeah, it's a sandwich.
It's fun.
Chris, you know what a pierogi is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, see? Dale,
Yeah, I don't.
Dale, it's a sandwich, bro. They used to serve them in the military. They just didn't call them pierogies.
It's pierogies. They're little potato dumplings. They're like potato dumplings.
Like a Polish thing. They sell them on the street in New York.
Yeah, it's like, you know, they're
Never
like,
had one of those in the military, I'll tell you that.
they're like Hot Pockets, Dale, but with potatoes inside.
You can put you can make they're delicious. I've made them.
Yes.
It's a thing. It's like to the pierogi to the Polish, like tamale to the Mexican, you know?
I would say it's more like, what are those things? It's more like an empanada.
I mean, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
sure.
It's more like an empanada.
Like,
I don't know about.
Yeah.
For snack, it's delicious, but they're not typically fried.
Yes.
Empanadas, pierogies, they're all like turnovers, right? That's the white people term for it.
Turnovers. Turnovers I thought they had in the workplace, Chris.
There's like a whole culinary history and richness, but I'm not gonna nerd out. I won't nerd out.
All right. It's also National Curves Day.
Like the gym?
No. This is for the fatties.
Curves?
Yeah, the fatties.
Oh.
Yeah, for the
I wouldn't.
fatties. Because like yesterday was like
Triggered
national.
Heather now. Watch out. You triggered Heather. She heard that.
This is all right.
Yeah.
We love Heather. Heather's fantastic. She does a great job, Dale, managing you and everything. You're lucky to have her.
I got love for my curvy people.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna hate on.
Because yesterday was.
Kiss my ass, Jason.
That's all
You
right.
offended me.
I'm here for it. Well, yesterday was National Plus Size Model Day. So that's why I know that today is, it's curves, what they're talking about. They're not talking about like curves on the road. I'll tell you that much. It's national.
I mean, there's good curves.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I'm here for body positivity. Just be healthy, friends.
I'm all about health. Health is wealth.
Yeah.
Well, Dale, here's something you can tell your kids all about today because it's National Take Your Parents to Lunch Day. Lunch on Heather.
Yeah, she just said no thanks. I got to call another kid. He's bailing on me. Yeah, dang it.
Oh, man. It's also
Yes, man.
National Take Your Teddy Bear to Work or School Day today.
Okay.
I have a Trumpy bear.
If you're Gen Z and you take your teddy bear to work, I have questions.
I have a Trumpy bear.
I have a grandson named Teddy Bear, so I'll take it.
It's also National Stop Bullying Day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's National Emergency Nurses Day.
Let's go ER nurses.
Yes,
They're
and
funny.
And last but not least, it's also National Hero Day. And I think emergency nurses could be classified as heroes too. They do a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deal with some shit.
Yes.
The ER room nurses, especially, they see the
Exactly.
craziest stuff coming.
Exactly. And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.high9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. And man, I got a story for you guys today because this is a sad story to report overall, but nonetheless, the Brooklyn weed shop's closure has an industry warning. It could be the start of a wave, you guys. Man. That's right. The high-profile cannabis lifestyle brand Happy Monkey has shuttered its second New York cannabis dispensary less than a year after it opened. A closure that, at least for now, appears to be indefinite, if not permanent. The closure of its Brooklyn location was confirmed to Crane's New York business by several cannabis industry sources who said the location shuttered in August after opening in November of 2024. The closure could be the first of many, industry experts told Cranes that they're expecting a wave of more store closures in the not-too-distant future due to harsh market conditions and ongoing competition from the unlicensed cannabis shops. In a quote, they say, "We're definitely going to see more closures, there's no doubt," said attorney Andrew Cooper, chair of the Cannabis and Psychedelics Division at Falcon Rappert and Berkman LLP. The Happy Monkey website notes that its location at 453 Fulton Street in Brooklyn is temporarily closed. The company, founded in 2017 by a pair of friends who used to operate in the underground marijuana market, still operates its first dispensary location in Dyckman Street in the Inglewood neighborhood of North Manhattan. But several industry sources voiced skepticism that the company would be able to reopen its Brooklyn location due to several factors. In a quote, "What is surprising that it took that long? Think about it. How many industries have a zero failure rate 3 years into the industry," said Jeffrey Hoffman, another New York City cannabis attorney, referring to a December 22 launch of the adult use cannabis market in the state. "The story is we haven't had tons more, but that could be because people are spending their retirement accounts to stay afloat," Hoffman said. At least one other licensed adult use dispensary, Status Cannabis, opened in the Bronx and then quickly closed in 2024. But in an email to Cranes, a company spokesperson said Stratus will be reopening by the end of the year at a new location in the town of Rochelle. and that the Bronx location was always intended to be temporary. By contrast, it's not clear if Happy Monkey will try to reopen in Brooklyn or possibly relocate, and the license for the Brooklyn shop is set to expire on February 9th of 2026, according to the OCM database. One indicator that the Happy Monkey brand is in trouble is that its current placement on the so-called COD list, a list of retailers kept by the state officials of cannabis management of dispensaries that are not up to date on bills due from cannabis suppliers. Happy Monkey's Brooklyn shop, which registered as Ramon Reyes LLC after the name of one of the two founders, has been on the list since August 20th, and said Nicholas Garano, CEO of Processor Genuity, which had been one of the shop's suppliers. That means Happy Monkey hasn't paid all of its vendors according to the state records, and it raises questions about the company's financial status. Giriano said the Happy Monkey location closed sometime during the second week of August, and that the company gave him a heads up that they'd be shuttering. In a quote, "They just warned us that next week they're going to be closed." That was August 7th, Garano said. They said specifically that their rent was too high and that they were dealing with too much illegal store competition around them. Happy Monkey leadership did not respond to multiple requests for comment for this story, but Reyes and his partner Vladimir Bautista told Cranes back in 2023 they ultimately were hoping to open a total of 6 dispensaries, the maximum allowed by the state law, given that they had both won retail permits. But Gariano and several other sources told Cranes they don't expect Happy Monkey to reopen at the Brooklyn location simply because it's surrounded by illegal competitors that sell marijuana for cheaper than licensed dispensaries are able to, as well as by several other legal dispensaries. In a quote, they say, "I would think it's closed indefinitely," Giriano said. "In Brooklyn, most stores are going through this. If you talk to most stores in Brooklyn, they know they're competing with illegal stores. It's kind of like the fast frontier of these straight-up illegal dispensaries." Cannabis attorney David Feeder, founder of Weed Law, said the Happy Monkey closure is noteworthy, not because it happened, but because of who they are. Feeder pointed out that Reyes and Bautista are well-known cannabis activists and were regular speakers at marijuana business conferences, and in recent years, the two had made the leap from legacy underground market, where they dealt cannabis illegally for years, to the status of fully legal dispensary owners. Not only that, Feeder said, but the Fulton Street location is a home-run location with plenty of foot traffic, he said. Happy Monkey was an industry staple, Feeder said. To see people like that having failures in a dispensary that's notable. That's a cautionary tale, he says. The closure wasn't a surprise to David Nick Ponsky, the owner of Freshly Baked NYC, another licensed dispensary in the Bronx. Nick Ponsky said the Happy Monkey shop in Brooklyn was not only plagued by illegal competition, but also made the mistake of deliberately setting up shop with just a few hundred feet of at least one other legal dispensary, Yerba Buena on Atlantic Avenue, thereby compounding the competition for itself. In a quote, "The closest licensee they opened near was within 300 or 400 feet, of which meant that not only did they have to deal with competition from the illegal market, but they also opened up right next to legal competitors," Nikoponsky said. "I don't think it was a smart decision to open up right next to a licensed competitor. That, I think, was probably a bad choice," he says. Nikoponsky said he also fully is expecting much such closures in the near future because the economics of running a cannabis shop in New York are almost prohibitively expensive. And he said a given dispensary has to sell at least $2.5 million worth of marijuana a year just to break even, and that about half the operational dispensaries in New York probably don't meet that threshold. He says, "Anyone who is finding themselves on a $2 million run rate in New York City is not going to survive." And according to the OCM's report, that's like half of the dispensaries. Nikoponsky referring to data provided by the OCM during prior regulatory meetings. Nikoponsky also said a lack of enforcement against possibly thousands of illegal marijuana shops in New York City and the rest of the state is killing the legal New York cannabis dispensaries, and said his Bronx store will likely go under whenever he receives his next federal tax bill, unless the state acts soon to crack down on the unlicensed storefront selling marijuana without permits in his neighborhood. Despite a crackdown launched by both the state and New York officials in May of 2024, there are still hundreds, if not thousands, of unlicensed marijuana retailers actively undercutting the legal market, Nikopolsky said. Within just a few blocks of his Bronx shop, he said, there are at least 6 unlicensed competitors selling marijuana for lower out-the-door prices than he can buy wholesale. In a quote, if an unlicensed retailer can sell out-of-state products at a cheaper price, out-the-door price, then I can wholesale them. You can't win that, Nikopolsky said. Nikopolsky added that he knows the situation is similar in Brooklyn, where Happy Monkeys, now shuttered, their shop was located, and estimated that the legal dispensaries are often outnumbered by illegal competitors by a factor of anywhere from 5 to 1 or 20 to 1, since law enforcement and cannabis regulators have been slow to close all of them. In a quote, he says, I suspect there's going to be a slow trickle of closures that slowly build up until suddenly the second and the third order impacts become undeniable, and then there's going to be a slew of them, Nikopolsky said. What was actually happened is the shockingly rapid destruction of vast quantities of life savings, both for me and for others, and that doesn't appear to be changing, he says. The OCM declined to comment on this story, but a spokesperson said the agency is not aware of any adult use dispensaries closing or going out of business to date, but there may be some that are temporarily closed while awaiting approval to relocate. Though it's not clear how much Happy Monkey's monthly rent at the Brooklyn shop was, and Feeder said there's been a disturbing trend among a number of New York City cannabis entrepreneurs ignoring rent costs and other business expenses due simply to overconfidence. He speculated that that may have contributed to Happy Monkey's problems. In a quote, there are many dispensaries betting their future on the fact that they're going to be the winner, and they're spending $50,000 to $75,000 to $100,000 plus a month on rent, saying we're just going to crush it. Forget everyone else. I think people have to be much more realistic, Feeder said. The New York cannabis regulators have also been blunt about the odds of success for entrepreneurs in the highly competitive market, and have stated plainly on more than one occasion that not every license holder will hit the proverbial jackpot. During a meeting in July, OCM Director Kevin Brannon told the State Cannabis Control Board that the agency is on track to license almost 5,500 dispensaries statewide, but that around 1,700 operational dispensaries would likely prove a tipping point for market saturation. Brennan also forecast that only about 64% of business licenses would even get to open due to difficulties with financing and other hurdles, and the OCM Acting Executive Director Felicia Reed has also in the past estimated that the state is likely to only permit between 15 and 2,000 dispensaries total in New York State. As of September 26, there were 494 operational adult use marijuana dispensaries in the state of New York, you guys. Man. This is bad news for our guys, and I love Vlad and Ramon, and you know what I'm saying, I've rocked with them for a long time, so this is really sad to see about this location, but I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
I mean, brick and mortar in other industries is suffering pretty bad. You know, you look at Amazon, you look at the dominance of e-commerce nowadays. Mm-hmm. So whether you're a clothing store, shoe store, you name it, there's all sorts of brick and mortar struggling. And, you know, New York City has a bodega culture. Everybody wants to go get everything they need right on their corner, from beer to bagels to, you know, breakfast sandwiches, you name it. Why should weed be any different? And the bodegas, regardless of licensing or where they source the product, they have a pretty big stake in the overall weed game in New York City. Yeah. So, you know, I think anyone in New York knows that there's so many other options, and rent is so high that, you know, for them to try to survive in a place like Brooklyn, where you have, you know, bicycle delivery of cannabis, you have corner store hemp shops, you have black market bodegas, you have online ordering, you have so many other options. To have an Apple store kind of large footprint retail makes it really, really hard. You really have to be doing something unique, and I don't think it appeals to most people anymore.
I can't wait until we have honest discussions in places where they give people MBAs about how many rocks they put in the backpack of people trying to come into this industry. And I mean, we look here at California, and New York is just mirroring what we did. As soon as you make real estate precious, you get triple net leases for $2.50 square foot. I mean, stupid shit like that. You can't get banking, so you can't go take a loan out. You can't pay through interbank transfers. Okay, you get all this going on, and then there is no serious effort to address, the legacy market, the black market. Like, you tie their hands behind their back and say, "Oh, go ahead and go out and make all this money." Problem is, half of businesses fold in the first 5 years. So there's that, without even all the other problems in our industry. And then no other industry has to compete with an unregulated market like we do.
Yeah.
It just won't. So you add all those things up. I'm surprised they've lasted this long. And one of the things I heard, and maybe I just misheard this, these guys still have a black market operation going, which I think is pretty smart, because you can make a hell of a lot more money that way. I'm not sure it's going to be enough to overcome the hurdles that have been put in front of them trying to make a business legit in an almost illegitimate environment. Hard to do.
I mean, in New York, rent is expensive in New York. It's not cheap, and I think that's going to be the downfall for a lot of these spaces. But go ahead, Shaun. What do you got to say about this?
Well, I used to live in Queens. I lived in LIC. So that's one of those areas where it was a bunch of warehouses and then it was a bunch of high rises. So Queens, Brooklyn, it's changing. That's where I learned what a pierogi was. But Queens and Brooklyn, they're changing. And I think this is tragic. I love Vlad. He's a good friend. This is very sad to hear, especially because they have represented the legacy market going legal in New York. And this is why, though, I, on principle, am nutty about gas station weed, or at least the ability to do it. Whether you do it right or not, I understand. Not everybody is going to be smart or consider their consumer, which I really think is the ultimate way to profitability. This is so tragic, because it's tragic because you want folks like Vlad to win. And it's a lesson for us all, for sure. We don't know if they're staying close forever. I'll definitely be reaching out. But I think the other thing that we have to recognize is this is also a natural cycle of a commodity under prohibition market. And this is why part of what brought me to cannabis was from Department of Defense and growing up Texican, just seeing the effects of the drug war and then other operations, you begin to understand how these markets develop and sustain the United States, and then how they actually develop over time. That started with alcohol. We can look at alcohol prohibition as an easy early indicator of this stuff. My great-grandmother was a bootlegger. So I'm like, it must be in the history or something. When we look at these market cycles, we have to realize that this is a commodity, and limiting it only to dispensary only model is the first mistake. And I get why we had to do it this way and why they grew in that direction and how policy led to it. And that's why I'm a little nut job out here in Texas, just trying to be like, whoa, slow your roll. Because we set our legal markets up for failure by limiting the scope of how they can actually operate. And what that ends up doing is only further empowering, like I am always out here saying, that black hole, like it just swallows you. And we've got to be really mindful of how we're setting this up federally, because New York, you also have to recognize that some of their legislators did create intentionally inclusive policy, and it's still just not enough, because at the end of the day, making this plant, which the people demand, illegal, and then further restricting how businesses can operate and participate as normal businesses, you self-perpetuate the problem. This will change eventually, but it's really, really sad to see players like Vlad and Ramon take the hit, especially because they did fight so hard for legacy operators to have a seat at the table, and they earned that seat. And that's really too bad. This is a little bit of a gut punch to hear this morning. I was like not plugged into that situation.
Well, I'm always going to keep it 100 out here in these streets, Shaun. You know what I mean? I get it. I get it. It's unfortunate, but you know what I mean. It is what it is, and we definitely wish him the best and the most success with the current Dykeman location. And you know, who knows? Who knows? Maybe they're going to move this location. I mean, when I got the news of this story, I was like, that's weird, because I just saw them post something on LinkedIn saying that they were going to hire. They were looking for an inventory manager for their Dykeman location. And because how it originally got presented to me is someone called me saying, "Oh my God, Happy Monkey just closed. They got closed down in New York." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, I just saw that. Yeah.
Also, people like Cranes, sometimes and I'll own this as a journalist. Sometimes the journalists make bigger deals out of things than they really are. Sometimes it's just moves. Sometimes you should.
No, I'm not buying that one. This was put together by John Schroyer, and John Schroyer has his pulse pretty good on things, and I definitely respect the stuff that he puts out in regards with journalism. So I don't think that's the case at all whatsoever. But not to mention, yeah, not to mention. Not to mention but in the quotes, and not to mention also in the quote, Shaun, in regards with the comments from the OCM, they didn't never stated that this location was subject to that location requirement rule of possibly having to move. So, you know, but they can't. They do have the ability to move it. The location is still, or the license is still valid until February of 2026. So, you know, Dale shaking his head is like, oh, that's only 4 months, huh, Dale?
Well, I can't help but pointing out that the black market and in the hemp market that's unregulated is just kicking the shit out of the legal cannabis market. And if you take a look at that, all the efforts to try to include everybody in and give everybody a leg up has just handicapped them. Okay,
it has.
Because you stand back out of the way and let people go out as entrepreneurs and do this. You see, we complain it's corner gas station weed. Okay, but they're selling the shit out of that. Okay,
they are, and people are buying it up.
Market is selling the shit out of black market weed. So the problem here is when the government tries to come in and set up a whole bunch of rules to try and fine and run an industry, they have no goddamn idea what they're doing. They kill the industry. So, I mean, as much as I'd like to see people like myself who went through trials and tribulations get, perhaps a place in line, entrepreneurs are what's going to fix this. And the best thing the government can do is get the hell out of the way.
Well said. Well said. And all that, we're going to get out of the way too. We're going to go into our first commercial, and we're going to be right back. We are back, you guys. We are back. Man, Dale, we've been covering this whole Michigan debacle. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. This whole Michigan debacle, and man, you are gonna love this, Dale, because a lawsuit challenges a new Michigan marijuana tax and would upend the Rhodes deal, you guys. Oh yeah, here we go, Dale. An industry group that represents cannabis businesses in Michigan filed a lawsuit on Tuesday afternoon, that's yesterday, challenging a state law that was signed hours earlier to impose a 24% wholesale tax on marijuana. The tax, scheduled to take effect on January 1st, in order to increase funding for Rhodes, was at the center of a compromise that ended a months-long budget standoff between Democrats and Republicans in the Capitol last week. Governor Gretchen Whitmer signed the tax hike into law on Tuesday, but the suit from the Michigan Cannabis Industry Association asked the Michigan Court of Claims to upend it, arguing the change should have required supermajority support from the legislature, which it didn't get, because it amends a ballot proposal that voters approved in 2018. In a quote, they say, "The lawsuit details how the last-minute late-night process occurred in violation of our range of other constitutional provisions," said Douglas Maines, one of the lawyers. "The association is asking the court to strike the tax in its entirety." Otherwise, the suit, authored by the attorneys with the law firms Honigman and Dikema Gossett, contended the public would be harmed by the legislature's usurpation of constitutional safeguards that protect initiated laws from legislative interference. The case could make it all the way to the Michigan Supreme Court, where the state's high court could have the rule on the legality of a budget deal that's been championed by both top Democrats and Republicans in recent days. Amidst so much uncertainty caused by a chaotic tariff strategy and a national government shutdown, Michigan is showing everyone how to get things done, Governor Gretchen Whitmer said on Thursday. "In the weeks and months ahead, we will build on this momentum and come together on common sense tools to create and retain good-paying jobs." Well, it's not common sense to raise taxes on marijuana, lady, first of all. So anyways, the Michigan Cannabis Industry Association represents about 400 licensed marijuana businesses, and last year Michigan's adult use marijuana market retail sales came in at about $3.2 billion with a B dollars, according to monthly reports from the Cannabis Regulatory Agency. Michigan voters approved a ballot proposal to legalize adult use marijuana and to institute a 10% excise tax on retail sales in 2018. The language of the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana with an H Act, the MRTMA, says the initiative that was approved by voters says the law includes an excise tax that's imposed on each marijuana establishment and on each person who sells marijuana. It also says businesses are barred from selling marijuana, and that was not produced, distributed, and taxed in compliance with this act. And the lawyers for the marijuana industry group contended that in 2018 law is the exclusive mechanism for imposing excise taxes on cannabis products in Michigan. To amend a voter-approved policy under the state constitution, 3/4 of the lawmakers in the House and Senate would have to support the change. While the new wholesale tax wasn't amended directly into voter-approved law, the lawyers argued it effectively amended it. With a 24% new tax didn't get 3/4 support of the House or the Senate. In the Senate, only 19 of the 37 lawmakers supported it. The new tax was embedded in a separate law called the Comprehensive Road Funding Act, better known as the CRAFTA, the CRFTA. And in a quote, "It is impossible to construct the CRFTA independently without reference to the MRTMA," the new lawsuit read. "CRFTA is therefore fundamentally dependent on the MRTMA." Supporters of the wholesale marijuana tax, like Representative Albus Farhat, a Democrat from Dearborn, have said they didn't directly amend the 2018 initiative, so they didn't need a 3/4 vote. And in a quote, "We have some great lawyers, some fabulous lawyers," Farhat said last month. "They've all looked at this and they've made it clear that this will withstand a legal challenge, being that it is at first point of sale and not at the retail side." The nonpartisan Michigan House Fiscal Agency has projected the wholesale marijuana tax would create about $420 million in additional revenue for roads annually, and that amounts to about 25% of the total investment in roads that lawmakers made this year, you guys. Wow. Dale, they filed this lawsuit, bro. I think they got a compelling case, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. Freeze the tax.
You're right. And every one of these states that has initiative processes have different rules of how you amend it. And, so I don't know that I can comment about that specifically just because I haven't read it. But Michigan is making the same mistake California made. Mm-hmm. It sounds like New York is struggling the same thing. If you overtax and overregulate this industry, black market and the THC hemp market just flourishes. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why this is so difficult for people to understand. We don't have like a generalized momentum yet. Green light cannabis, much like we do alcohol, and then ratchet up some of the penalties for being in the black market without being draconian. Try to rein this into the green market, or whatever terms you want to use for that. Because taxing and regulating the shit out of this is a recipe for failure. I don't know. I mean, do we have to tattoo this on these people's foreheads when they look in the mirror in the morning?
Hey, that's a good idea, Dale.
Stop doing that.
We should totally tattoo this on their foreheads. That would be great. Just you got to remember to do it backwards.
We continue to see this industry as a cash cow. We got to fix the roads. Yeah, we do. Why don't you go, look at other demographics and tax the shit out of them? Okay. Well, they don't want to do that. They want to tax our industry because we're still a soft target. I mean, we're still federally an illegal drug. We've got all the prohibitionist mentality out there that, we don't want to encourage this.
Maybe they should put like a tax on tire sales or something, Dale, because those are directly touching the roads.
Yeah. I think that government has to take a step back and figure out what are our big priorities of what we want to accomplish here, and see if we can get people who use government services to pay for those services rather than have all of us continue to fund things that, there's really no accountability for this money. Where does it go? We're going to fix roads. I just run over a pothole. What do you mean you're fixing the roads? What does that mean?
You bring up a good point.
Accountability for the funds.
You bring up such a good point, Dale, because there was already a story that we covered years ago in regards with Governor Gretchen Whitmer and her siphoning or doing something with some $40 million that was earmarked for veterans. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden they can't find that money, don't know where it went and whatnot. And it was baked into a law, and they've never received any accountability for that.
We also have to figure out who did it, though, because they said this was last minute.
She did, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm talking about the legislators. I would want to know, what's going on behind the scenes. They said this happened at the last minute. I'm not trying to rationalize it, but sometimes they'll hijack, cannabis industry initiatives and hold them. They hold it hostage to get something else. Sometimes they have to make. In Texas, we had public education leverage to try to get this ban. Our entire public education funding. That's insane.
Well, I mean,
and it's happening. Sometimes they do this because they know it'll kill you. And they don't care. How much money do they get from other pots? In Texas, they get it from oil and gas. So, we have other money and we have a surplus. So they don't care if they don't get our money. But you got to make a real loud fuss and you got to bring the noise. So I'm glad to hear the lawsuit. But we also need to figure out who's actually accountable for what really transpired. So that way they can tease it apart and start to unravel that knot.
Oh, I see what you tried to do there, Shaun.
It's kind of how it is. You got to get in there. You got to figure it out. You got to figure out who actually did what deal did they make?
I can tell you what the deal is. I can tell you exactly what the deal is they hey, we're short on money. We got to figure out a way to get this money out of these weed guys because, you know what I'm saying? They're making all this money and we're not getting enough of it. We passed only a 10% tax and all these other states are doing 35%, 40%. It's crazy. We're losing so much money. That's how they think right there.
That's sad because I tell our folks down here, 10% of a healthy industry is a whole lot better than 30% and nothing.
What do you guys say, Chris?
24% on top of already, 10% excise, 6% sales tax. If I know it's wholesale, they don't have to pass that on to the consumer. They could just eat it.
They do,
but they will. I mean, that's 40% tax. That's crazy. It's like these politicians have no mind for economics at all. If you look at the economic markers of what's going on, Michigan's one of the most saturated markets right now. That I know growers in Michigan that are like, we have to dump our stuff into New York City or we get no money for it. So they're already skirting tax that way. First of all. They're already getting beat up so much on their wholesale price that to put a wholesale tax on it, who's actually going to be buying that wholesale with that tax in that kind of a market? It doesn't make sense. The math doesn't math. So it's short-sighted greed again, and it's going to just destroy another market that is already pretty close or maybe even beyond saturation. And I don't think they have a plan to fix it when the market itself collapses. I mean, like Shaun said, it's 30-40% of nothing is nothing. If all these businesses fail or backdoor everything, it's not really it's not hitting the tax revenue targets that they want anyway. So why don't you just put a reasonable tax in there, just a couple percentage points?
Oh, I can tell you why.
And be realistic about it. It's like nobody did the math on this. Everyone just like pulled some crazy number out of the sky, like 24% tax. Oh, we're going to make so much money.
Yeah,
it's
like they do the math backwards, right? They pull a number out of their ass, and then they're like, "Oh, let's do the math and see how much money that'll bring us." Oh, that sounds great. Oh man, what we could do with all that.
It's so important to try to have. I will say it did help. This is why I got into the mediation field, because it helps to be able to go talk to the Republicans and Democrats and actually break it down for them, because some of them aren't business folks. Some of them are nurses and teachers, and this isn't their thing. And they see 24% tax seems normal, right? But they're not thinking like more like 10 to 12 on any normal commodity. Otherwise, the consumer notices. Then they notice at 8 to 12%. And with our economy contracting the way that it is, folks are noticing it a lot more.
Yes, they are.
It's like, but we had to go in and have that educating conversation. I know it's intimidating and scary. I don't know what the mission advocates are doing out there. I don't know what the players who have licenses and money who are paying lawyers are doing out there. Sometimes they're always waiting for the lawsuit. And I do think as much as you can, try to come to the table and have a conversation, you do. But also they are saying that this was snuck in at the last minute. So I'm not saying that they didn't do their work out there. I imagine that they did to protect what they have, but we have to start having real conversations about how we balance budgets in this country. Like, we are on the United States, everybody else is starting to rise up, and the United States global influence and economic power is starting to level out, and we need to
I don't know about that.
To have better conversations. It is a bit. We need to have better conversations, or else we're going to have a really painful come to Jesus moment later. Cannabis has always been my greatest educator when it came to business sense and when it came to recognizing history for what it was and our growth cycles for what they are. And we really got to get our shit together in this country.
Well,
I don't know. Sorry, that was rabbit hole, but it's deeply concerning.
Well, this country is the greatest country in the world, Shaun.
The entire industry is web sales then, because if everyone collapses and retail is collapsing everywhere, are we all going direct to consumer web sales exclusive? Is that what we're doing?
That's it. That's it. Exactly. I'm all with that. I ain't got no problem with that. I'm good with that.
I'm just worried about the implications of what an entire economy is based on web sales.
You should buy stock in cardboard boxes, Shaun.
I could buy stock in Trump RX. I heard that's the plan.
You should do that. That'd be a smart move actually for you, Shaun, right there. You know what I mean? Yeah. Then you wouldn't have a lot to complain about.
Some public office, and by the time I have one, I won't be allowed to have any money or anything, and we won't be allowed to age either.
You'll be well. That's because you'll be on the Trump RX program. You know what I'm saying? It's the best anti-aging products out there.
Oh, it's going to sell me a PT 157 now? I don't know about
this. Oh, we're going to keep this train rolling. We're going to roll it. What's that, Chris?
So got to get that beef tallow.
Yeah, I love good beef tallow.
Yeah, methylene blue, the whole program.
Oh, it's so great. It's so great. We're going to keep this train rolling. We're going to roll right into attorney at law, Mr. Dale Schafer. Dale has been an attorney since the Reagan administration. He has represented physicians, hospitals, insurance companies, cops, corrections officers, and for the last 25 years, he specialized in cannabis law. He served a 5-year federal prison sentence for helping medical marijuana patients and managed to save his law license. He's blunt. He doesn't smoke them because they're ratchet, they're nasty, they turn your teeth yellow on top of other things yellow. But he is honest, and he's unconcerned with your opinion, public opinions, and anyone else's opinion that wants to identify in any way. And he will show you how he can defy gravity by pissing up a rope. That's right, is your favorite Tio Loco, and you can now find him at his own law office at the law office of none other than Dale Schafer.
Good morning, everybody. It's Tio Loco again.
Yeah.
My story this morning comes out of MJ Biz Daily, and I got to give a trigger warning here to Jason, because we're going to talk about hemp bill, the farm bill. The headline, Hemp THC ban, cannabis reform in limbo during federal shutdown. And, my response, the second part of that is it's in limbo. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. This is not the biggest hurdle to be, gotten over right now. But when I read this, I thought it was very interesting that there are squabbles inside the Republican Party about intoxicating hemp products. And for the trigger warning for Jason, Mitch McConnell, who authored the Farm Bill, calls the failure to incorporate all these intoxicating hemp THC products was a mistake, and it's a loophole. I know that triggers you, Jason, but this is the author of the bill who's saying, you know, we fucked up here. We should have included these things.
He's just doing it to spite Trump, Dale. He's just doing it to spite Trump. He's being very spiteful right now, and he's about to be on his way out. He's just a spiteful kind of guy.
Well, that's the term you might use. But inside the Republican Party, where most of my family resides, I'm looking at this like, okay, Rand Paul is saying, wait a second, you got an industry going, and I'm going to do what I can keep this loophole open, because he doesn't like the prohibitionists in his party. And quite frankly, I don't either. There are far too many Republicans who still buy the Richard Nixon prohibitionist mentality bullshit. You know, this is going to ruin Western society, rather than opening your mind to the possibility that there's a couple of generations coming along right now who would rather smoke weed than drink. Okay. And you can put all the lipstick on that pig you want, but next couple generations of voting public right now don't buy the stories we were given back in the 60s and 70s about how bad weed is. Don't buy it anymore. And the Republicans also recognize that we have an industry that is getting up on its feet right now and has its own momentum. And Rand Paul and other, I mean, Rand Paul is a libertarian, and I've got a libertarian streak in me. I don't want any regulations out there we don't need. And the hemp industry, because of the loophole or, you know, the mistake, whatever you want to call this, it's thriving right now. Okay? And as I mentioned earlier, in the cannabis space, the only industry that's thriving is the hemp market and the legacy black market. The legal market is shitting the bed right now. It is horrible. Government wants to continue to raise taxes, have more regulations on it. And what I see inside the Republican Party right now, I think is hopeful that they're going to continue to push the practical economic realities. People want cannabis. I mean, you can say all you want, but people are doing with their dollars is telling the government, we want this. And too many in the government aren't listening. Okay? And it's like the story before where they go jack the taxes of the 24%. Jesus, that is an industry killing maneuver. Okay? Now, I don't think much is going to get done with cannabis while we're in the shutdown. There's a lot bigger fish to fry. In the cannabis industry, we live in a bubble. We all think that this is the most important thing in the world. But realistically, we popped to 30,000 feet. There's a lot of other problems in our country that are equal to or greater than the struggles we're having with cannabis. We want to fix our cannabis problems. There's bigger issues to deal with right now. I don't think we're going to get a lot of progress here. And honestly, I don't know that inside the government, the DEA doesn't really want this to be a Schedule III. It's pushed by Biden. And we talked about this a lot. I don't see a lot of momentum. And I don't really know that Donald Trump is in favor of it. I think he's trying to figure out what does he want to do with this industry. I think he's pro-business, so he would like to push this to be, you know, the businesses to go forward. He's also got a lot of people inside of his ear that are, you know, don't want this to go forward. So we'll see how that works out. But right now, I guess I'd say I'm hopeful that Rand Paul is going to continue to keep the hemp THC industry going. I don't think the Republicans are going to put this as a demand into the CR, the continuing resolution they're trying to get passed right now. But, you know, I've been wrong before, and I've seen this industry hit brick walls. So we will see. I'm going to throw this back at you guys for your comment, because I'm sure we'll be talking about this as time goes on here.
So I was actually considering myself to go after a medical license in Kentucky last year until they announced the lottery they were going to do. But I made a lot of friends there, spent some time there. I like Kentucky a lot. But I can say, I don't want to quote my sources, but Mitch McConnell is very involved on the medical side of things. He's opened doors for certain people and closed doors for others. And so it's no surprise to me that he's trying to close that hemp loophole because it's a competition to his own interests in his home state. Among other things. I mean, the overall article is about a government shutdown stalling all this progress, which obviously isn't a big surprise. As Dale said, cannabis is pretty low priority to everything else we have going on. But there's more than meets the eye going on with all this and the guys behind it. I wouldn't call them outright, reefer madness prohibitionists. There's certainly specialty interests involved.
Interesting. I still wouldn't call it a loophole, though. Just saying.
We're not supposed to say that on the show, right?
People have their. I remember I got all spicy a few weeks ago. I said it was a line.
It's not a loophole.
And I stand by that. It's not a loophole. It's the way it should be. It should just be free, open. Yep. And that's not me being a hippie. That's like me actually doing some analysis, and this is actually the way. Because all of the rules, here's the issue, is that you get, then the Democrats really, we want to do this. We want to support this. It'll be a platform and it'll be a social cause. And then they get all excited by the lights. They are still very skittish and gun shy. And so they design these programs with limits. It's always that milligram dose limit. Like we all know, I don't have to y'all, but these dose limitations, the milligram percentages, like all of this rulemaking has created more of the problem. And what we need to do is recognize it's just time to evolve the FDA. Okay. There's a few things that we need to learn. We have learned, and that we need to recognize about science, nutrition, functional wellness that MAHA has right, but then there are also some pharmaceutical applications that are necessary, but also the healthcare industry has been raking the American people across the coals. We could solve this with cannabis. However, they're very focused on their posturing and how they're going to kick the can with this because they don't see it as a solution. They see it as a nuisance, and we have to keep making ourselves a solution. So when it comes to making your arguments in Michigan against taxes or making your arguments for hemp on the federal level, also, by the way, sequestration, that is the magic word. I can't remember a year we haven't sequestered. I remember sequestration when I was in uniform. It was like a thing. This one I take a little more seriously because I heard that the active duty troops are not getting paid either. And that's unusual. Usually it's just a furlough for the civilians with back pay. We'll see. But when I heard that we were going to run into sequestration, I thought this was a good thing for the hemp industry. That y'all should recognize this gave you more time to organize, add things to the bills, have those conversations, and let them fight about other shit.
You're very right about that, Shaun. This government shutdown is fantastic for the cannabis space. It just keeps the ball punted. I'm in favor of it. I think this is great.
I'm in favor of sequestration. I want my government to learn how to balance a budget. 1 year.
Oh, come on. They're not. The budget is not going to get balanced. It is too far in shambles.
It's not just the
We'd
budget.
have to cut so many more programs, Shaun. We would have to cut so many more programs in order to balance the budget. And not to mention, we'd have to get a hold of the military-industrial complex and all of the waste that's associated with that. And that's just not a realistic expectation to get right now.
Optimize the budget. You're right. You're right. We have dug our hole and we are where we are, but we need to optimize and do a little bit better. Remember how we were talking about bloated businessmen who spend on inappropriate things and then wonder why they go out of business? Hello, America. It's not the 90s anymore.
Fair enough.
We got to get real.
Well, Shaun, you should have been here for the 80s. It was great.
I was I was a wee one.
The pendulum has definitely swung to the right now to give strict accountability to the government for the money they're given. And they're not set up to do that. They don't have a clue of how to be accountable. And we've never really made the government be accountable. And right now we're $33 trillion in debt, spending like drunken sailors with a credit card. And to try and just hint that maybe we want to look at priorities of what we want to spend just gets people's heads to explode. Yeah, I'm a fiscal conservative, even though I'm a Democrat. I'm a fiscal conservative, and we just can't keep paying for every goddamn thing that someone could imagine as a problem in somebody's lifetime, and the government's got to come and fix it. We can't do that. We have to prioritize what we're going to try to do. And inside the Republican Party, I think they're recognizing that if you take your hands off of these controls, an industry will be able to thrive. Right now, the hemp industry is thriving, and also the black market. And if you want to try to fix that, you've got to green light the green market, and then slowly the black market will go away. Because if the precious thing is available at a reasonable price, you're not going to the black market to get it. We don't have anything close to that right now, because the green market is still a precious commodity that's overpriced. And if you can make a phone call and have somebody deliver your weed right to your place, why would you go out looking for this stuff when it's overpriced? That is the problem the government just doesn't have an answer for.
And we do have something close to it, Dale. It's the hemp industry. That's why it's so worth fighting for. It's not, I know everybody thinks, or I know folks who are on the marijuana side and the legal definition of marijuana being like what legal states are operating, like California are operating under. I know we want to postulate that it's all dirty distillate, Delta 9, THC, XYZ, like, but it's not entirely. There are actually good operators who are really leaning in on the fact that it is an acid form that the consumer is purchasing before decarboxylation, and that the choice of whatever happens after purchase is up to the consumer. And we do have it. It's worth fighting for and protecting, and not self-cannibalizing. We got to get our own shit together. While we're in sequestration, again, I'm not in support of a government shutdown. This is every year that it's happened since I can remember. This has been bad, and it's political posturing. Let's be real.
I have no problem with the government shutdown. I'm good with it. We're saving so much money right now by having the government shutdown.
I'm not getting paid. No way. People can't pay their mortgage. People won't be able to pay their bills. It's always the hardworking American who pays the price. We got to figure this shit out.
I agree with that. I don't want people to suffer that are actually hardworking, but we do have a lot of government bloat, and if this helps get rid of a lot of our bloat, I'm all for it. But on that, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and we're going to roll into our next commercial, and we're going to be right back.
Every legend has a humble beginning.
In world news, leaders are gathering today for the annual summit.
I want to tell you something, Che. The government is watching us through the television.
Oh, John.
Look, right there. They're trying to hack into my TV box.
We're still not able to hack into the TV box, sir.
Ha! But they can't.
I've rebuilt the entire electronic system, and it sends and receives signals through quantum phase space. They'll never get in. Engage target.
In other news, local authorities are investigating a series of strange atmospheric phenomena reported by residents.
Ma'am, we're with the federal government. We need to ask you some questions.
John?
Is there a problem? We've been trying to penetrate your TV box for over 6 months.
I told you they were trying to watch us through the TV, but you didn't believe me.
We can't get in, and to be frank, we have no idea what you've created.
Yeah, that's the point. It's called privacy. You know what the Fourth Amendment guarantees?
All we know is that we can't get inside. We want to know if you can create one for us.
QUX. Even the government wants one.
There we go. All right, stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it, and YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.high9news.com. Also, make sure you check out our 9/11 special with Congressman Kurt Weldon, Congressman Dana Rohrabacher on everything that actually did happen on 9/11 and a whole breakdown on all of that. As well as if you or anyone that you know, it doesn't even have to be cannabis related, want to obtain a federal pardon. I've assembled a top-notch law group of special guys that really specialize in all of this, and I can help individuals obtain federal pardons right now. But we got to get to work on it, so let me know if you have people that are interested. Make sure that you reach out and contact me some way or somehow.
Introducing QUX Pay, or simply the Pay app.
Where you can pay like it's nobody's business.
Because it isn't. It's what everyone's been clamoring for. It's finally here.
Secure every payment. Your data stays private. QUX will never sell your data for profit, period. Pay friends, family, contacts instantly. No hidden fees. No limits. Spend on the move.
With this patented technology, you can use debit, credit, bank transfers, cash cards, and even crypto completely offline.
Amounts transferred through the Pay app reach their destination instantly. Transfers in a flash. As quick as sending a text. No more waiting around like crypto. Are you ready for the future of payments? The state of the art for money is finally here.
Data privacy and security protocols trusted by militaries and banks worldwide. QUX Pay, the Pay app.
Available as an app and point of sale system, personal and corporate accounts available. Go to QUXPay.com and start using the Pay app today.
Yep.
My girl's wholesaling those peptides if you need some.
Oh, bro, I love some. Yeah, I'm all about the peptides, bro. I'm a peptide fanatic. Yes. Well, coming up next, it is Miss Shaun Salvaje. She's a veteran who proudly served our country, and she's a mitigator that'll help you stay out of a lawsuit so you don't get to hire Dale ultimately, even though Dale is always looking for business and people to represent. And Shaun is also a proud mom with little bays running around the house, screaming all day and coloring on the walls. That's right, it is none other than Miss Shaun Salvaje.
Jason, you're silly. My boys are going to be going to college soon.
They still color on the walls, Shaun.
They do not. It's funny. They don't pick up their socks, though. Mm-hmm. Forbes, my story comes from Forbes.com from our friend Javier Hasse. It's an interesting one, especially given the context of what we've discussed on today's show. But America's cannabis market is breaking down. A select few are breaking out. So I'm gonna read the story straight from Javi because he's a great writer. Let's hear what he has to say. The cannabis sector has endured a dramatic correction after peaking at a combined valuation of roughly $37 billion in 2021. Leading publicly traded cannabis companies like Curaleaf, Green Thumb, Tilray, and Trulieve are now worth less than $11 billion as of October 7th, 2025. That's a big hit, guys. 20 billion-ish. Oversupply, plunging wholesale prices, average U.S. retail cannabis prices have fallen 32% since 2021, which should have been expected. You had a big pandemic bubble. We should have enjoyed that abundance, but also hedged those bets. Heavy debt burdens, stalled federal reforms, and punitive tax treatment under IRS Code 2280E have left many operators cash-strapped. In parallel, more than $3.8 billion in delinquent payments are weighing on the ecosystem, with invoices averaging about 1.6 months, about 6 to 7 weeks past due. Complicating matters further, hemp regulations remain unsettled. More than 30 states have banned or restricted intoxicating hemp-derived cannabinoids like Delta-8 THC, and Congress is considering closing these are Javi words, hemp loophole, lifeline in the 2025 Farm Bill. Because we have to recognize it's all cannabis. So let's look at this as the cannabis industry, guys. So these pressures have eroded margins and investor confidence across the industry. Yet it is not all contraction. Select operators, both private and public, continue to expand nationally by focusing on capital discipline, measured growth, and diversified strategies. Now, the author wishes to note the article does draw on a mix of company-supplied data for private operators and public filings for listed firms. Figures have been reviewed for accuracy, but are not independently audited or intended as investment-grade research. They're presented for industry context only. And Javier says he does not own, nor does he plan to buy or sell shares in any of these companies mentioned within 1 week before or after publication. Okay.
Disclosure.
Seth Yakatan, hey, respect. Seth Yakatan, an investor and longtime industry advisor, cautions against the idea that mergers alone will save struggling operators. I agree. Acquisition is a business, but you got to still have a smart one. Otherwise, you go under too. Deleveraging must occur and profitable growth must occur. Catalyst states still provide upside, he said in an interview, but the barriers are structural. Legal operators, Yakatan noted, remain hemmed in by the illicit market and limited household penetration. No brand name, no household names really. I mean, if you're in the cannabis industry, you know them, but does America know you? We're working on it. He estimates California's legal market at about $4 billion annually, with the illicit trade of similar size, pointing to Hoodie Analytics' benchmark of roughly $800 in annual household spend for cannabis. He added that if California hit that level of penetration, the market could approach $12 billion. Sandy Lee, a partner at Viridian Capital Advisors, echoed that survival depends less on size and more on strategy. The brands still earning consumer loyalty are those that invested in differentiation. That's why I did my little suck of the lips, because $800 in annual household spend for cannabis, maybe in California, but if you're looking at nationwide metrics, how many households are going to spend $800 in legal stuff, right? Not when they can get it for $200 elsewhere, depending on the volume. Sandy Lee, a partner at Viridian Capital Advisors, echoed that survival depends less on size and more on strategy. Brands still earning consumer loyalty are those that invested in differentiations, she said. With flower increasingly commoditized, it's not enough to compete on price. Instead, companies are holding ground by focusing on quality, authentic storytelling, consistent customer experiences, and innovation, essential for any business in any commodity. That dynamic is especially visible in certain categories. Infused pre-rolls, solventless concentrates, edibles, and beverages are all capturing share, Lee added. For example, according to Hoodie Analytics, unit sales of pre-rolls has exceeded vape unit sales in the U.S. for the first time. Global edibles market alone is expected to grow from $14.8 billion in 2024 to $48.7 billion by 2030. And products featuring CBN, CBG, and other cannabinoids, alternative cannabinoids, which are right now operating under the hemp market, are expanding to the consumer, like THCV, are expanding the consumer base beyond recreational users, with wellness-focused categories projected to grow at 22%. I think it'll represent more of the full industry. CAGR through 2030. Okay. What does that mean? I mean, we've got some other issues, though. Policy tailwinds offer limited relief. Even as operators retrench, federal policy remains a critical and unpredictable variable. The industry is still waiting for clarity on rescheduling. Moving cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 would reduce the crushing burden of IRS Code 280E and unlock research pathways. President Donald Trump has also hinted at a different health-framed approach. In late September, he reposted a polished video urging Medicare coverage of hemp-derived CBD, calling it the most important senior health initiative of the century. The post sent cannabis stocks jumping, a reminder of how closely investors are watching Washington for signals. For many, it suggested Trump may view cannabis reform less through a cultural or criminal justice lens and more through a healthcare cost savings. A path that could prove politically safer. And I do think for his position and base, it is. What rescheduling and 280E relief could also, because I swear to God, I read something about Trump RX. Someone fact check me. Is that true? Is it, if it's a real thing, someone check me. What rescheduling and 280E relief could change? Still, industry advisors caution no single policy change will erase the sector's structural challenges. Yakatan sees rescheduling as helpful but limited. For those in pure retail, this will help a lot, as if 280E goes away, they get a 20%-ish lift to profits. He said he noted that many MSOs have accrued 280E liabilities and may not see a dramatic near-term change in cash flow, while product companies may experience less impact. It helps, but I'm not sure it's the magic wand that wipes away the sins of too many debts and not enough profits over time, because whatever those commitments were, they're already done. Yakutan added that hemp remains an open question. My crystal ball is dark on how legal changes will manifest. Oh no, Seth. Lee agreed that the sector must avoid chasing headlines. In her words, three fundamentals remain non-negotiable. Tracking gross margin per unit, tightening working capital management, and enforcing strict cost controls. She warned that expansion for its own sake is no longer rewarded and stressed that every dollar of CapEx needs a clear near-term path to return. Because people are feeling skittish right now, especially people who aren't in cannabis but want to put some money into it. Private operators expanding strategically. Not all cannabis companies, however, are shrinking. A handful of private operators continue to grow largely by emphasizing discipline, niche strategies, and diversification. Some are also just well-funded because historically they are well-funded. Sun Theory is at the top of the list, and they are Austin-based. Let's go, Texas. Austin-based Sun Theory has expanded from one state in 2021 to multiple states today, with revenue rising from $2.8 million in 2021 to nearly $30 million in 2024. The company projects a $70 million in revenue for 2025, spanning dispensaries, hemp and cannabis manufacturing, and consumer wellness brands. In August 2025, Sun Theory ranked number 644 on Inc. 5000 list of America's fastest growing private companies, reflecting more than 650% growth since 2021. I've had conversations with Sun Theory in the past, and I have to say, in the early days, I had a lot of respect for how they put their branding together, how their storytelling was done, and also they learned by going through the rigors of it. So they weren't new to the market. They only enter jurisdictions where rules are intelligible and the margin structure is attractive. That means that they focus on asset-light, brand-driven businesses while sidestepping the risk of large-scale cultivation. I think it's really smart. In this kind of time, we have this metaphor that we use in the Air Force. If you're a big heavy, you're not going to be able to turn the corner very fast. Our heavy cargo planes can't turn. If you're an agile fighter, it's called strategic agility. And if you're a little fighter jet, you can turn your corners a lot faster. So you should stay nimble. So Sun Theory is doing good. They also listed, this is, a longer article, but they also listed Bud and Mary's, True Terpenes, and a few others, including Canatrol, which is my favorite. I bet. Yeah. Well, because early days, I was like, if you have THCA and then Canatrol, I think Canatrol should also enter a consumer market. I do, but I could be wrong. Roll Pros and a few others. Still, Seth Yakutan cautions against reading too much into ancillary momentum. Many of the businesses in this vertical exist only because of the constraints which are placed upon the cannabis sector. As such, many of them have long-term sustainability, competitive advantage for durable growth. But if the walls fall down for cannabis, then they're going to have more competition in ancillary service, which we're seeing a lot of. This is a great article. They do talk about the companies who are maintaining growth, and they included GTI, Trulieve, Vireo, and Deep Roots Harvest, and that there's selective growth in shrinking markets. I do think that you do see a lot of regional opportunity based on how much base you can actually build in your area, but that's all regular business market fundamentals. Like, that's just knowing your area and building a sustainable business. So we'll see. Basically, the whole article kind of talks about how we're all just in limbo, and some people are doing all right and some people are doing terrible, and the ones that we'd love to see fail are just hanging on anyway. Sorry. But it's good to see some folks win. I always love a win for Austin. I got to tell you, I always love a win for Austin, Texas.
Oh man. Shaun, first of all, I have to say, the author of this is, as you mentioned, is Javier Hasse. And I do find it interesting that he's writing for Forbes while being the whole editor-in-chief of High Times. So like he's definitely is getting around and still, picking and choosing what publications he wants to put his pieces in. I find that very interesting, and I'm not,
He might have editorial. First of all, he's been writing for Forbes for a long time because I know him back from when I was working PR for folks years ago.
I just find it interesting. That's all. Just making a comment.
But High Times also has an editorial rhythm, and I think I'm actually excited to see him at High Times. I think he'll bring a level of seriousness to it, and I think he'll develop a very strong program. I'm looking forward to seeing what they build out there. I think it'll be good. I do. I do recognize we have to be careful though, because sometimes we get like around MJ Biz time and other conferences, we get all hypey on ourselves. And we shouldn't do that. But I think this, he provided disclosures and he is a writer for Forbes. It's not a publication I would walk away from. It's a national publication. They deal in other issues. He could have an opportunity as a journalist to expand at Forbes while also taking care of
I'm just making a comment, Shaun. That's all. Just making an observation. Just a basic.
I would do it if I could. If it was me, I would.
Dale,
do it, Javi.
Dale, what do you got to say about all this, Dale?
Well, it's putting lipstick on a pig. Okay. And the pig is not making money.
Yep.
That's the real problem in the industry. There's too many taxes and regulations for this to be a real viable industry right now. There's too much uncertainty in rules and regulations coming. So there isn't like investment that wants to come in that doesn't have a shitload of strings attached. These are the problems I have with my clients. And if you're going to be viable, if a business fails, you can't just pick it up and go. You've got to go take a look at, can you renegotiate a lease? And you negotiate down any of these monies you haven't paid that are owed to vendors. There's a whole package of things you have to do. And you just don't have, Bank of America going, oh, yeah, we'll extend you a $2 million line of credit or something. You don't have that. And we continue to talk aspirationally about the industry, which we should, because there's a future for this that, hopefully I can see it before I get buried. We actually crack this thing open. I'm not sure it's going to happen, but I like to be optimistic too. But when I sit down with my client and we close the door, I got to be blunt, okay? And the industry is struggling right now, and to try to say it's not is just being disingenuous. And I wish the politicians would just get the out of the way and let this industry go. I don't think that's going to happen anytime real soon here.
I think the regulatory overhead has always been an issue, even when it was the black market. It was just, the cops with SWAT teams at that time. But personally, from the point of view of economics, I welcome the correction. I compare this to, the .com boom and bust, and we're just in the bust period. And there's been a lot of people that have just been on the sidelines waiting to make money that haven't really added value to the industry. And for cannabis, as an industry to kind of lose some of that hype and momentum, I think we'll bring a lot of that emphasis back to the people that did add value, that were in the trenches doing the hard work and not just standing around on the sidelines. Remember just a couple of years ago talking to someone at a conference, it was probably MJ Biz, and they had a catalog of like women in stilettos hitting vape pens, and they're like, oh, we're a cannabis lifestyle brand. And I'm like, okay, cool. Do you make clothes? Do you make stilettos? Do you make the no, we don't make any of that. We just have a catalog, and we're a lifestyle brand. Like, so you're not doing anything. You're just standing around the sidelines, hoping that you're either going to scam an investor for money or do some publicly traded Ponzi scheme trick or do something. So the only way for us to get beyond that is to have a crash economically and to rise from the ashes. And it sucks for those of us, for those of us that have been in the trenches trying to do hard work, because it will affect our profitability as well. But it's a necessary correction for us to move on. And that's the only way that I see it. And when it's no longer cool to be in the cannabis industry, when it's no longer seen as this cash cow, is when people, operators can add real value and build these house brands that so far have not been able to get themselves established.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of, cutthroat or Darwinism, however you want to view it, but I think it's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
It's a natural market progression. I will say, to Dale's point, it does become highlighted, and also yours, Chris. It does highlight when you are an organization. Like, I think some operators take it personally when they see other operators who are able to ride the wave, and I think it's important to know some folks, they built from the ground up and they're going to be able to endure, and that's one way to get to that path. And then some folks do have a deep network, and it does help, and that's why it's just so important to build community as one of your foundation principles, because at the end of the day, I'm not aware of anyone in business, in any vertical, any commodity, who ever did it entirely alone. And yes, there is a reality that we're not all going to be funded like folks who have deep pockets and wealthy lineages. We know that we have a few applicants out here for teacup that have that. And you have to compete with that, but that's also part of cutting your teeth and getting to the next level. And it's real in any industry. And I'm looking forward to seeing the burp at the end of this. We'll see who lives through the next 3 to 4 years.
Shaun
that'll be our next little window.
You hear that, Dale?
It's definitely a time to be nimble and lean as an operator right now. There's no room for bloat. And like I said, long term, I see that as a good thing. On the short term, it sucks for anybody that's in the business right now, because it's, button down all the hatches. We're leaking water everywhere right now, but it can't stay like that forever. People are going to keep smoking weed. That's not going to change. So whatever emerges out of it next will be a different set of circumstances that we have to survive in. But if you're adaptive and you actually have value to this industry, there'll be a place for you. I believe that.
Fair enough. And on that, we are going to roll that little happy message right there, Chris. We're going to roll into our final commercial, and we are going to be right back.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
It's like, what do you actually do here?
And we are back, you guys, and we're going to roll right into Mr. Christopher Vaos. He's a seasoned cannabis industry professional with over 15 years of experience in commercial cultivation. He has led large-scale indoor greenhouse and outdoor operations across the U.S. markets, specializing in cultivation optimization, team leadership, and cost-efficient scaling. With a background in engineering and data-driven science-based approach, Christopher consistently delivers strong results in plant health, productivity, and operational efficiency. It is none other than Mr. Christopher Vaos.
This next article comes from Reuters, where the real news comes from, and it is regarding Germany restricting online cannabis sales amid an import boom. It shows a picture of a guy smoking a blunt, even though it says it's a joint. That's going to stain his teeth. Anyway, Germany's cabinet passed plans on Wednesday to restrict the online sale of cannabis to tackle a surge in imports of the drug since the legalization of its recreational use last year, the government said. The amendment to the existing law will require direct in-person contact with a doctor for a cannabis prescription and ban mail-order delivery of the drug, with distribution restricted to physical pharmacies to ensure proper counseling. Germany became the 9th country to legalize recreational use of the drug in April 2024. In the first half of 2025, imports rose by more than 400% from the same period in the previous year. The massive increase in cannabis imports and the practice of prescribing cannabis online without any personal medical contact require political action, said Health Minister Nina Warken. The increase is not due to greater demand from seriously ill patients, the government said, as prescriptions via the social health insurance system only rose by a single-digit percentage. People who really need medicinal cannabis will still be able to get it. A spokesperson for Giru, a pharmacy in Berlin specializing in cannabis, told Reuters they expect the main impact to be on patients in rural areas who they said may not be able to access adequate care locally. The old e-commerce, we don't want to call it loophole, lifeline or whatnot. It's once again, it's inevitable. It's how everybody buys everything nowadays. It's how Gen Z views the world. They don't remember brick and mortar for a lot of stuff. Best Buy doesn't even sell most electronics anymore. You have to buy them online especially specialty electronics. You can't just walk in and buy a Walkman or whatever people listen to music on these days. That makes me sound old. But, I wonder, it doesn't mention where the imported product is coming from, but, we all know there's a big black market in at least 1/3, if not 2/3 of the whole world, especially Europe. And there's a lot of California weed leaving our U.S. borders. So, once again, there's demand, and someone's going to fill that demand, however. And Gen Z no longer cares about these rules. They just want it delivered to the door. Convenience wins over everything. What do you guys think?
Convenience for the win, bro.
I'm curious if they can actually stop a mail order in Europe. I mean, they couldn't stop it here in the United States. I mean, it would require a ramp up of not only investigation, but then prosecution. And I just don't see anybody that's got the stomach to do that here in the United States right now, because the other parts of e-commerce are exploding. How do you really get something to detect a small amount of weed coming by a small pack?
Yeah. How do you do especially direct to consumer, like you said, a small amount. It's one thing if you find 10 pounds getting mailed, but an eighth, a quarter, an ounce here to crack down on all of that. That's probably
it's impossible, bro. It's impossible, especially with the amount of packages that are shipped on a daily basis. You know what I mean? Even if you took Amazon out of the whole picture of the shipping side, you know what I mean? There's still so many packages getting shipped every day that it's just an enormous task that there's not enough manpower or budget for enough manpower to be able to do all that. It's just an unrealistic task for anybody in relation to that.
I think about here's what I think about.
Here we go.
There's a fear and a hope. Okay, the fear, Palantir could probably figure out how to stop those transactions before they even happen. No shipping problem if they got into that line of business. Secondly, just thinking from a regulator's perspective, if I in law enforcement, if I want to stop something and I was working with an organization like that, how would I do it? It would never leave the office. The transaction would be intercepted and surveilled, which we're headed towards with everything going to the internet.
No, stop it.
Every technology, there's another.
Exactly. There's always going to be an offset, a counterbalance.
For every wall that's built, there's a cannon that knocks it over.
If that's the case, we're going to go back to homing pigeons. You know what I'm saying? You're going to not be able to stop the pigeons. You know what I'm saying? Dropping off the bags.
The hope is, if we could figure this out nationally, we know where that weed is coming from. It's coming from California.
Exactly.
America could be the world supplier, and we just need to embrace our roots. We need to lock in and embrace being an ag state nation, an agricultural nation. Back to some of that stuff.
I'm just so excited.
We schedule it. We can export it.
I'm just so excited to hear you advocating for California cultivation or California cultivators, Shaun. Look at that.
California cultivators. I dedicate whole episodes to y'all. I gave y'all your whole love fest. I love y'all. I'm just sad for what you're going through. And then some of them like to point the target at hemp operators, and that's a mistake. That's not the way. I love my Cali operators. I just got to be real with y'all sometimes.
I think most hemp on the market is just Cali overflow with a COA slapped on it anyway.
Yeah, you would probably be right about that.
Well, I don't think any of these big companies that mail things out and want to, get it to your house in 24 to 48 hours would tolerate having to run it through scanners and having dogs sniff it and all that kind of stuff. They wouldn't tolerate it because their economic model now is to get an order and get it to your house in 24 hours. And having law enforcement get in the middle of that, it's like it's just going to fuck up a wet dream. They're not going to tolerate it. And it's the same dynamic coming from the hemp industry. These people are successfully making money. They go to the legislature or Congress and go, hey, we're making money. Please don't change this.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going to get the kind of change that the prohibitionists might want. And there really is this crazy mindset. Government thinks it can actually stop people from doing things they want to do by passing a law. And they don't seem to understand
right?
that the ethos of the United States is, tell us you're going to pass a law, fuck you, we're going around it.
Mm-hmm.
John Hancock was the most notorious smuggler in the colonies because the king said, we're going to put a tax on it. Yeah, fuck you. I'm going to bring it in and ain't paying your tax, okay? So it's part of our ethos that people piss and moan about it, but then how much weed is coming from California into Europe right now?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody wants to stop it. But can you?
Nope. Nope.
Let's hire more cops. No, how about you make it fucking legal?
Mm-hmm.
Just stop this shit.
Yep.
We just can't get past that conundrum. And I mean, I don't have a lot of hair left to pull out, but goddamn, this drives me nuts.
Well,
how do you get through to people? People actually want to use cannabis without the government telling when and how much. Get the fuck out of the way and leave them alone and find out how to make some money off of this through taxes at a relatively low rate, the high volume. This is where the Wharton School of Business needs to have a little seminar with people in the government right now. It's like, get the fuck out of the way and leave this alone.
Wharton can't figure this shit out. You learn this by going through it. Not all Wharton doesn't always have it all together.
Warren got it all together. All day.
Sometimes you have a degree and it makes sense and you still can't run a business and all that. Like there's yes and no.
I did some research.
I really hope that we just can see that our best opportunity as a nation is to grow it and sell it. Like the folks in the comments were talking about the soybean farmers. We are having a little bit of a farming problem and an ag issue. And if we don't start producing, like this feels like a cliche that you would hear your parents say, but if we don't become a nation state that produces, our chickens are going to come to roost. We need to look at this for what it could be and actually leverage it. I don't
want to hurt the feelings of anybody out there, but I've had clients with MBAs and they are dumb as a box of fucking rocks. Okay. And I don't know, you can't put too much lipstick on this pig either, because I don't know how they got through MBA school, but I got an MBA, and you give them a business to run, they run it right into a brick wall. You go, why do you do this? Well, because I was trained to think in a certain way rather than successfully run a business. And so, I mean, there's a whole lot of factors that are slowing this up. The metaphor of headwinds for this industry going forward is full of a lot of knuckleheads. And, I just hope for the day before I die, and remember this, or put it on my gravestone, he was holding his breath to fix this problem, and they just still couldn't figure this shit out.
Well, well, speaking of, go ahead, please, Chris.
I was going to say the article looks like it's actually referring to telemedicine, telehealth, whatever you want to call it, because it says requiring personal medical contact in order to prescribe cannabis online. So.
That's
doesn't necessarily
so ridiculous.
Say delivery or mail. It's they're just trying to put the rein on it. I don't think they're going to be able to.
They're not. They can only hope to, but they love to try to control everything, and they're never going to be able to control it because it's just a plant, and it's just not realistic, you guys. It's just not realistic. You know what I mean? These people, hopefully one day they'll learn. Hopefully they'll tune in, watch us, and see us all talking about them all the time, and want to evolve on their issues themselves. You know what I mean? maybe they'll just hire us to consult with them, Shaun, and you know what I'm saying, tell them how to fix it and make it better. But speaking of Whartons, Shaun, you know, I did some research for you, Shaun.
Oh yeah.
Yep, and yes, Trump RX, often stylized as Trump RX, is a real initiative announced by President Donald J. Trump in late September of 2025 and is part of his administration's efforts to lower prescription drug prices for Americans. It's a direct-to-consumer website, trumprx.gov, set to launch in 2026, where patients can purchase select discounted medications from pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer, bypassing traditional intermediaries such as pharmacy benefit managers. Shaun.
So my question is, who did those contracts, and do they go with him when he leaves the presidency?
Well, it's trumprx.gov. You know, this is the thing is I'm not. Don't be so sure that he's going to leave the presidency, Shaun, because I'm hearing words that that it's very highly likelihood that he's going to be our next vice president after his 4-year term, Shaun.
You're right. There is an opportunity to be vice president. It would be a unique opportunity, and only so few would take it. And it would be a capital position for him. That is true. He would totally do that. He would totally do that. I'm just glad that you said VP and not president, and I'm just glad that we're honoring at least that.
I'm a realist, Shaun. I'm a realist, Shaun. I always have been.
You know, the military folks are on edge a little bit out here.
So, that's only because they got to get in shape, Shaun. That's just the fatties.
It's because we like to protect the nation. And when y'all fight amongst yourselves and it gets out of hand, it worries us deeply.
I don't know. But I'm going to tell you what's been worrying everybody, because, man, I'm in this group chat with all these Ohio operators, and, man, that chat has been lit up in the last 24 hours because they're asking, will Ohio ban THC-infused drinks? And retailers are scrambling to clear their inventory, you guys. That's right. Beer and wine shops that also sell THC-infused beverages are trying to clear their inventory of their shelves by October 7th in anticipation of a ban in Ohio on the drinks starting this week. That's right. Governor Mike DeWine's office declined to say late Tuesday whether the governor will be shutting down sales of the popular drinks, but that's what shopkeepers are hearing. In a quote, "Folks, we've received word that there might be an executive order from our governor as early as tomorrow to ban the THC beverages that we've been carrying. That means we'll be stuck with a lot of inventory that we can't sell." Art of Arc Wine and Spirits and Beer near Worthington posted on Facebook. The shop said the ban would be a big hit for the small businesses and distributors. The THC drinks are particularly popular among young adults who are drinking less alcohol than previous generations. And the Rambling House posted a message on Instagram urging customers to buy now and telling Ohio leaders that a sudden ban will hurt small businesses. Rambling, in a quote, "Rambling was the first manufacturer of these drinks way back in 2020. The whole idea is simple. Give people a fun, relaxing option for when they don't want a beer, but still want to enjoy a drink with friends and good music," the post says. DeWine is not a fan of THC-infused drinks and edibles sold at gas stations, beer and wine stores, and elsewhere, but DeWine first called Ohio lawmakers to restrict access to intoxicating hemp back in January of 2024. "The current loophole that allows these dangerous products to be sold to children needs to be closed as soon as possible," he said at the time. And in the months since, state legislatures have not enacted or proposed laws to require intoxicating hemp products such as Delta-8 THC to be sold in licensed marijuana dispensaries and impose THC limits on drinks. The proponents were stymied by lawmakers' lack of consensus on a variety of marijuana questions looming since Ohioans legalized the product back in 2023 with a vote. And Ohio is in this position because of the 2018 Farm Bill that legalized hemp nationwide and defined it as cannabis with no more than 0.3% Delta-9 THC, the compound that produces a high. The law opened the door for industrial hemp and CBD, but it also created a legal loophole that's total baloney that allows CBD stores, breweries, and gas stations to sell hemp-derived cannabis and other gray market products. Well. And apparently Governor DeWine is going to be doing a press conference today where people in Ohio are anticipating him coming out for a whole overall ban on all hemp-derived products in the state. But we're going to see, and I'm sure that is a story that we will be covering here tomorrow on High at 9 News, and I can't wait to hear what y'all have to say about this. Governor DeWine. He just wants the wine stores to sell wine, apparently, because he's not governor to hemp.
You're cutting out really bad, Jason.
Oh, really? You guys missed that?
No, we
got most of it. We got most of it. That end part was really bad, though.
Oh man, I'm sorry, guys. I apologize.
We got the gist, though.
He's going to do a whole press conference today. Supposed to come out, and everybody thinks that he's going to.
That has a tax revenue model or any other kind of competing model is trying to ban hemp. I mean, we talked about that at the beginning of the show with Mitch McConnell and Kentucky having their vested interest. Everyone has their interests and wants to use this as a cash cow. And we all know that, anyone operating under the USDA hemp guidelines is bypassing that tax model. So once again, it's just Ohio's turn to do that.
And there's a news story. There's
taxes, though. It's like these businesses are still paying business taxes and other taxes. They're just like
there's no excise tax, there's no license scheme, there's no other. It's just basic sales tax.
Yeah, there's no government Ponzi scheme in it, but we can figure that out. We don't have to ban it. Here's the problem. Like, you ban it, I got my 3 pillars argument ready to fire. Like, if you ban it, you embolden the illicit market.
Yep.
You push everybody back. Like, it's a bad idea. You cannibalize your medical market. You ruin everything for yourself. You remember that 30% and nothing? That happens with overtaxation. It also happens with gross overregulation, and it happens doing this kind of stuff. Like, also, what'll stop web sales?
Well,
Again,
News 5 Cleveland just put out a thing, and this is from that Ohio chat. It says, according to a draft, all consumer products containing intoxicating hemp must be removed from public displays by all retailers. No consumer products containing intoxicating hemp may be sold or offered for sale during the state of emergency, and any retailer who has intoxicating hemp must segregate these units from other merchandise and hold them or a portion of them for law enforcement officers or officials of the Department of Agriculture. And Delta 8 is a cannabinoid produced by the cannabis plant. And it says that Ohio doesn't have any age requirements to buy Delta 8 since it's a 0.3% or less THC. Thus, hemp products can be sold almost anywhere in the state, and the government has no jurisdiction over them. So it looks like it's going to be an interesting thing going on in Ohio, and we're going to have more on this story tomorrow.
Rules, can they make all those rules in emergency session? Can they actually make that many?
It happened here in California. Dale, you want to opine on this, Dale?
Well, if you make emergency decisions, they have a time limit on them.
Yep.
And what the question I always ask these policymakers is, why would you pass a law you can't enforce? Because right now, the prohibition model is failing miserably everywhere when it comes to this plant. And why would you pass another prohibitionary rule when you can't enforce the ones you have on the books right now? It's mind-boggling to me. And I pose this question to both Democrats and Republicans who are anxious to go pass another one of these. It's like, why would you pass one? Who's going to pay for the enforcement here? You don't have enforcement right now, and you're going to pass another law and give it to the police who are busy trying to look for, real criminals and selling, a Delta 8 THC drink in a stop and rob on a, Ohio highway. It's not like a big criminal concern right now when you've got the number of shootings you have in these inner cities, got real crime going on. So at some point, we've got to have a more rational discussion about how we're going to do this. And I just don't see it right now because we have too many people, their knee jerk is to just make it illegal again or, pass a law or require something else or raise the tax on it. They don't understand that people want this shit. And if you can't figure this out, they're going to get it in the black market and you're not going to get a nickel in taxes and revenues out of it. It's going to cost you money to enforce. I don't know why this is so difficult, but we keep having these arguments.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more.
Well, the law enforcement thinks that if they ban it all, then it'll be easier to enforce because they can just say presence detected, banned. But
that's assuming they could find it, Shaun. It's assuming they can find it. That's the thing. They got to find it first, and that's a lot of manpower to have to go to find it because there's a lot of boxes getting sent everywhere.
I don't know why they think like that because I've tried having conversations with law enforcement. If any of y'all are in law enforcement, you want to help dial me into the psychology of this. I can't put my finger on it. I talked to Steve Dye, who was known for testifying against all of us in Texas, and I asked, and he was like, well, we just know if it's banned, we can do it. And I was like, you know, how long is that going to last, boss? Like, how else are you going to do all this? And I couldn't get him around the corner. Sometimes I guess you have to accept that folks are just going to be stubborn. It's sad.
Well, I've represented cops before.
I feel bad for his folks on the street because it just ruins, it ruins the opportunity for healthy reform. I think America is just at a place where we just need to evolve. We're at a growth cycle. There are certain things that are outdated. We need to evolve, and police reform is one of them.
We need to do a lot of things. But I've represented beat cops before. And unless their upper echelon supervisors are telling them to focus on something, they look for people that are being violent and that are out doing things that we talk about involving moral turpitude. That's where they want to go because these people are doing things that are hurting others. When it comes to prohibitions, the argument to keep them in place is just so paper thin. You just wonder, why in the world are you doing this? And go take a look at what Diane Goldstein and law enforcement against prohibition are doing, because they were beat cops, and they're like, we don't give a shit about this. This is not a big problem for us. It's only there because someone's telling us we got to enforce this way. California made weed a misdemeanor soaking wet. The arrest basically stopped. You don't get promoted. No one gives you an attaboy, and you walk in after busting somebody for smoking a joint. They don't care. You bust somebody who's shooting up a school, who's robbing a bank, beating up their wife. Yeah, you get a pat on the back and you get advanced in your career. You don't for busting people for weed. So a lot of this has fallen flat with the people who are supposed to enforce it. They don't want to do this. Shit, it's stupid.
Yeah. You're very right about that, Dale. Very, 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 very right about that.
But now we have all these other offshoots. We have hemp, we have medical, we have recreational. And a lot of enforcement is revenue based. It's not moral. It's not, obviously law enforcement should prioritize, victim crimes, not victimless crimes, violent crime especially. But a lot of what they're doing is revenue generation as well. I've literally gotten a parking ticket in Oakland when someone 2 streets away was getting murdered. And it's like, well, how did you let that get away? But I got a parking ticket and chalk on my tire. So, we've seen that over and over again. But, we've talked about this being a medical operator even. And, some of us have been in the business and in the trenches for a long time. And we tried to follow the pathways for licensing that were put in front of us. And then, there's a lot of people that are in medical or recreational cannabis that hate the hemp side. And I try not to be, to fall into that mindset. But, these people enter the hemp industry and they don't have the same regulations. They don't have the same regulatory overhead. So it creates this division and there's hatred. And it should really be all or nothing. Lump us all together, regulate us the same way. Or make it all illegal for everyone again and let us just be black market. That would be having all these different lanes and not knowing where each one's going to go it's really confusing, and it's created a lot of resentment and animosity within the industry.
Fair enough. Well, on that, we're going to wrap this thing up. And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. And big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst Cannabis for helping us keep the lights on over here. And thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing, you guys. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. And Cloud Media partners Elias and Kai are somewhere in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.